Good morning, everybody. This is Professor Kyunghee Pyun again. I am recording Unit 3. I'm going to be a little bit brief today because Heian, we are only studying one period in this chapter. So Heian period is a period of an isolation. Isolation means China cannot actively send envoys and receive envoys from Japan. Again, China is going through a tumultuous period of invasions. So nomadic tribes, they are coming from the north, and then Tang Dynasty eventually collapsed toward the end of the 9th century. So, from this period until, let's say, 800, right? 9th century through 12th century, Japan was developing culture on its own. So this is called like a Yamato culture. You probably saw this word earlier, Yamato. It means Japan. Somehow Japan is going to develop their own national style, which is more like a Yamato style, not the Chinese style. The most important genre of art is emaki painting. So this is going to be the focus of the Unit 3. This is the shape of emaki, hand scroll painting. And this one explains how you create it. You have paper is only come in this wooden frame set. So you can see the each piece and you glue them together, and then eventually you create a long hand scroll like this. I always tell students that it's sort of a size of your paper towel, right? So somebody can look at together with 2-3 people or one by one. And this one explains how to read the emaki. So it's illustrated storybook. You see the story, you read the story, and you see the picture. You read the story, and then you see the picture. Or sometimes written part and then the illustration part could be two separate roles. And it doesn't really matter because readers, they probably memorized all the passages. So they know as they read this. For example, if you watch like a Star Wars movie, 11th time, what happens? You know where the line comes, right? Like who says what, right? So it's just very similar to this kind of people. They read this many times and then they have memorized it in a way. So this is emaki, like a emaki, painted picture scroll. Painted picture scroll was very popular in medieval period from 10th to 16th century, meaning from the Heian period, next Kamakura, and then Machi, and beginning of Momoyama. So after Momoyama, you don't see this kind of elaborate hand scroll. They may see excerpts, like scenes from these popular stories in fan, like fan painting or screen painting in other formats. And then the direction is from right to left, which is different from our own modern day book reading, right? Like we read from left to right, right? Left to right, left to right. But in ancient times, not just the Japanese hand scroll, Chinese, Korean, even Islamic books, they read it from the right to left because it's a scroll types. So you can read the definition of emaki paintings. So who are primary patrons of it? The social elite. Let's say only 5% of Japanese population have seen or read emaki. The rest of them, like 95% of Japanese people, they only heard the stories, like orally, but they never saw the hand scroll. It's a luxury. The patrons were imperial family, aristocrats, the shogun, or monks from the wealthy Buddhist temples. And then, they were usually created by official court painters, although we don't know the exact names of the artists. And then they were produced in Kyoto. I am trying to write Kyoto. Kyoto, its old name is Heian, right? That's why it's called Heian period. So the most famous one is Genji Monogatari. So in English, they call it Tales of Genji because Monogatari is a Japanese word for story. So it's a Prince Genji. Prince Genji His name is Hikaru Genji, like a shining prince. The story was written by this author called Lady Murasaki. Her full name is Murasaki Shikibu. And Shikibu is her like the family name, but Murasaki, the word itself means purple, the color purple. So she was a court lady, sort of a secretary to imperial princesses. And she never got married, but she was a keen observer of the court life. She watched everything, all the conversations. So she wrote a beautiful and elegant court romance called Tale of Genji. So here, Prince Genji, as you see here, the Genji, or here the Genji, Prince Genji is involved with many court ladies. And there are beautiful love stories, but all heartbroken. So there is a discussion activity where you can read more about Genji Monogatari. So the scroll that you are looking at, I mean, you only see painted section of it, but you can imagine it's a long hand scroll starting from the right and then, going all the way to the left, and then you open, a section at a time and you see and move on, and so it's really luxuriously painted, a full painting. So the story was written in 11th century, right? During Murasaki was living 11th century, but this current hand scroll was made a bit later in the 12th century. So there are many versions of Genji Monogatari. Most of them are just the text only. So people loved reading it, and people memorized a lot of those conversations by major authors. If we go to Kamakura period, we can also see the diary. Murasaki Buzuniki, meaning she not only wrote a novel, Genji Monogatari, she also kept her own diary. So the diary and the romance, there are a lot in common, like a lot of court festivals and holidays. So this is Kamakura period, the next period, Kamakura period, Emaki. And the reason I am showing you is the type of depiction is totally different. Heian period, they only show you indoors. It all takes place in the inside. But in Kamakura period, if we see diaries of Lady Murasaki Shikibu, then you will see some court festivals that take place outside, right? You see the dragon boat and then the drummers, drumming. Those things are depicted as if they are taking place outside.